Story and packaging are very important. I'm not going to lie to you. There are brands that these aren't people that are like established, brands. These are young brands. And I've gotten their product, tried them, and been like, maybe this isn't for me, but damn, that packaging is gorgeous.
All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Small Business PR Podcast. I am so thrilled to have Jihan Forbes. She is a fashion and beauty writer. She is an editor for all things digital at Allure, and she has been working over 10 years in journalism. So welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today.
Now, we have so many founders in our community who actually are just dying to get into Allure and to be in a product roundup, right? And since you focus on beauty and fashion, why don't you just tell us a little bit about what you cover and what kind of things you're really interested in writing about right now?
Sure. So, as far as beauty, right now, I cover like a wide range of stuff. I talk about makeup, I talk about hair products, I talk about skincare, I'll talk about, crystals, healing crystals, anything within the beauty and wellness kind of pantheon, I cover. I work a lot on features, which is really fun. So I'm able to do things like take beauty products that we think about and just kind of blow out like what they mean to us in terms of like our culture, in terms of like people's religion, telling other people's stories. What I'm very much interested is how beauty and culture collide, and how that happens, and also with a little bit of business. I also do some editing stories about beauty businesses as well. So it's a wide range of topics and like very all encompassing.
So, I mean, I have so many questions to ask you because I can only imagine what a day in the life is like for you. You have people, PR people, you have founders just shoving product down your throat and saying, use me and feature me. So, can you give us an insight into like what your inbox looks like? Like, how many pitches do you get, samples, all of it?
A lot. So I like to do like a sweep of all my emails. I maybe get like something in between like 200 odd emails a day. Yeah, 200 a day. I'll clear out all my emails, and then like the minute I get down to zero, I get another one. So it's really just like, yeah, every time. If I go, so there are days also where I'm doing a lot of writing and editing, and I, am only able to go through a couple emails, like stuff that's, really pertinent. And then I got to leave the rest for later. And if that happens, if it's a really busy week, by the end of the week, I could have like 1,000 emails, and then I have to like go through all of them. So it's a lot of emails.
It's fierce competition for your attention. That's for sure. So, why don't you tell us from the person who's actually the decider, the gatekeeper, who makes the cut from a very high level? Like what kind of pitches are immediately like, nope?
Well, it depends. And it depends on what you're pitching. As far as like if we're just talking about trying products, because that's what we're here to talk about anyway. For me, there's a number of things that go into piquing my interest. And it's not, you don't necessarily have to be with an agency, but what piques my interest is number one, if it's a product that like literally I'm just like, oh, what's this? Like this sounds so new, cool, and innovative. That will pique my interest. If it is, a product that if it's from a company that has a really cool story, that also might be something interesting. If, it's like part of a old tradition from thousands of years ago and we're bringing it, modernizing it for now, that is something that's also interesting, right? Also if it's something that is very buzzy right now, if it's, say, well, Ayurvedic stuff is always in, but if there was like a new kind of, beauty trend that we're seeing, and we're seeing products that are related to it, that might also be interesting. So it depends on all those things, and also depends on what I'm working on. Like, you may have launched a new toothpaste, and I may have just finished a story about toothpaste, and I've just tried 10 toothpastes to write about, And now I'm just like, my toothpaste story is done. I'm moving on to so it's a lot of different factors that go into, I think, choosing products to feature.
Yeah, and I also think it's kind of like right place at the right time because we don't know what your editorial calendar is. I have no idea what you're writing on. So I know you touched upon doing research, right? Don't pitch something that you've already covered. What are some of the other things that like a bootstrapping founder with no resources can do to set themselves up to success so that they can maybe get on your radar and get a response from you?
I think one thing is like looking at what's really going on. If there is, say, I don't know, Rihanna wore a certain glitter on her eye that no one has ever seen before, but you were already making that glitter. That might be something that I think I could use, especially if it's timely. Like, also think of timeliness, right? So if that's something timely, right? Say I'm writing a story on Rihanna's glitter eye. You're like, hold on, didn't Rihanna just wear that eye? Let me just email somebody, and if something is going on that relates, they might pick it up. So that is something that I think a lot of people need to think about, and I think it's hard to, because that's almost like thinking like an editor, right? Because you got to really just be like, okay, what's going on now, and how can I make it a story? And when you're pitching your products, essentially, a lot of times you're pitching to us possible like stories or possible things to incorporate into stories. So it's very much like trying to have, like, very much have to have that kind of mindset. And that can be hard if it's not something you're familiar with. Because, like, you think about people who even work in magazines, like more junior people, they're developing that kind of mindset. Like, even they're doing it and they're in the thick of it. So I imagine that it would be much more difficult for somebody who's a brand owner, but it's something that you kind of have to try.
Yeah, 100%. Because being able to get featured, especially if you are a bootstrapping founder, the confidence that it gives them to be like, I'm here, I am seen. I mean, I see it all the time with my PR Starter Pack members, and you just validated it too. So you touched upon timeliness, which is something I teach as well. So one way is to write on the coattails of something else, right? Maybe mention Rihanna. What about seasonality? So, like, what season we're in? Like, right now, we're recording this. What about a story with like spring, summer, beauty? Is that something that'd be interesting to you?
Yeah, if it's new and depending on what I'm talking about as well, it could be, there, and yeah, I think like seasonality is also good, but it's also not a guarantee. I think obviously people do seasonal stories, but I think that we get a lot of those pitches. Like, I'm telling you, once, what is it, November, December, we're getting I start getting gift guide emails in July. So yeah, I start getting gift guide emails in July. Well, that's because print is usually working on, I'm on digital, so we're a little bit like, it's a little bit of a shorter lead most of the time. But I'm always getting seasonal stuff, and I'm going to use, some of the stuff I'm going to use. But like, I think even seasonality is sometimes not enough for me. Because, and this is also something, to keep note, like when you're pitching, like think about which editor you're pitching and what they do. Like, you kind of have to learn what the roles really are. So I will do a commerce story. So those are those kinds of shopping stories where it's like 10, shea butter based products to make your skin glow, right? Those kinds of stories where we're like, here's this product, here's this product, here's this product. That is something that like a commerce editor would do more of. I do a lot more, like, I work across the board, but I do a lot of features. So for me, if I'm going to use your product in a story, like, okay, you have a shea butter product, right? For me, I'm not thinking, okay, let me use it in this 10 shea butter story. For me, I'm like, okay, I tried this shea butter. What am I doing that relates to shea butter? Am I working on an ingredient explainer? Am I working on, like, here's my personal body care routine? Is the story what I did, with this weekend, whatever. So for me, it's like, I kind of have more to adapt to that. So if you are going to pitch seasonal in a seasonal capacity, make sure you're pitching to that editor is doing mostly commerce stories. I often get, those kind of seasonal things, and I will pass it over to commerce and like let people know that I have. There are some commerce stories that I've worked on. I know fragrance pretty well, so I will do those kinds of things from time to time. So it really does depend a lot on the editor too.
I love that. So seasonality is important, but obviously not a guarantee. Doing your research is really important. What are some of the other things? Like if you were to just imagine a perfect pitch that came into your inbox and you're like, oh yeah, I like that one. Like what other things would I have in it? Maybe subject line or attachments or no attachments? Or what is the tone?
It depends on what it is. You can have attachments. It's very helpful to have like a little one sheeter on what your product is, what's in it, how much it costs, all the flowery language that you might want to put behind it, in describing it. That's very important. And a cool subject line is also catchy, but the way I check my emails personally is I'm running through my emails anyway. So the headline doesn't necessarily like a catchy like I'm going to open the email. I'm open. The email is getting opened regardless. Maybe some other editors might kind of just be like, I'm just going to open whatever has a catchy title. But I personally can't go off of that because there's been some titles, honey, that I've seen in my emails. And then I open and I'm just like, okay, this is what all that hullabaloo was about. Like, please, like next. So.
So you do read all of your emails then, even though you don't respond to most of them, you're actually going through your inbox and reading them.
I go through every email. I don't read them all. I have to like skim them because I'm not reading 200 emails,
Yeah.
but I'll skim them. Like if obviously like titles make a difference, but it's like, if your title is catchy and I still can't do anything with the product, then, so it has, the most important thing is relevancy. And that I think is hard for brand owners to know because you don't know what I'm doing. And, and I'm not going to give everyone a copy of my, Airtable schedule because that would be ridiculous. So unfortunately, on a business owner side, it's a guessing game, right? It's a lot of chance, but that's just how it is. Cause, I will tell you, even if you are with an agency, okay, they're emailing editors about stuff, that doesn't necessarily make you more likely to get featured. You could get 1,000 emails from an agency and, they can send out 1,000 emails about your product. And then I can just be like, all right, I'm still like, there's still nothing that I can do with this right now. So, what do you want from me? So that really, um, adds a factor. And, I think also, I mean, it's hard to create relationships with editors and random people because like every people are in my DM, this and that. But if that's an opportunity that you have and you are able, I mean, that takes a lot of like social intelligence and a lot of different, stuff. But hey, if you're a charismatic person and you run into some editor and you're like, hey, girl, like I saw you here and there, like what's good, do but I really think what's going to catch my eye is if it's relevant to me now or if it's just something that I is like something that I'm passionate about, and those things are like very personal, and that's not something that you are automatically going to know as a brand owner.
Yeah. But I think as long as you follow, like, everyone turn on your, social media, like follow what she's writing. That's really step one. Nothing's worse than receiving a pitch and you're like, I don't even write about this. Right. So I'm glad you validated that. You also said that just because someone is pitching from an agency, it doesn't impress you more if someone's like, I am representing so and so. So do you care if someone speaks in the first person or acts like their assistant? Does that matter?
It doesn't really matter to me. And you know what? Like, there are brand owners that there's one particular brand owner that I'm thinking about. Granted, their journey was a little bit different because they already kind of were in the beauty industry, but they had started their own brand. And this person emails me it's not the PR agency, it's this person. And I have a personal relationship with that person. So I'm just like, hey, what's good? Like, I got you, like, send it over, all of that. And that person does not have an agency, because that person
Yeah.
built up those relationships. Maybe one day they'll be with an agency. But the reason I think they've been able to build up their brand is because they had relationships with editors already. So if this person is somebody that I'm coming to as a reporter, and you're a beauty professional, that's also something that's also really helpful. If you have a brand and you're like, you were already like a dermatologist or a chemist or, whatever, that's actually kind of, I think, more, that can give you, I think, more of a boost, because then you have that, that expertise. And then, if you're a dermatologist, it's a little bit more, well, or a chemist, I can say, well, they created this product, but they know what they're doing. There's nothing wrong with kitchen made products. There ain't nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, like, I think a lot of people don't understand that beauty, like, I mean, yeah, you can mix a bunch of oils in your kitchen, but like, it's not going to be the same if somebody that has an understanding of science and formulations and like how to stabilize certain things. Like, mama, you don't know how to stabilize vitamin C. Okay. I don't know how to stabilize vitamin C. Okay. So you're coming to me. I made this vitamin C serum in my kitchen. I'm not a chemist. I just really like carrots. That, respectfully decline, but that is something. So having that expertise, I think, does give people a boost. So if you're somebody who's like, dang, like, I'm a dermatologist, I live, wherever, I'm making these products, maybe I can, email, and then you can use that as leverage, right? You're starting your product line. I'm starting this product line. I'm also available to comment, on stories. So there's another place you could build a relationship, right? I might not have time. I might not have a place right now for your product, but I'm working on, ingredient explainer. Can you speak to this? And that's how a good way to build relationships. But that is something that, like, I mean, if you're already somebody who knows how to do that stuff, I think that is super
Yeah.
helpful.
I think that's why following up is so important because, as you just said, you actually do read your emails. Obviously, you're not going to respond to all of them. But once you're tasked with a certain story, do you just go back into your inbox and do a quick search? Like, how do you keep all of these pitches in your brain? Like, how does it work? You go back into your inbox or?
So that's the thing. So what I like to do in my inbox when I'm reading through my emails is I will say, okay, this person emailed me. I don't have a place for this right now, but I do a lot of stories like this. Let me put this in a folder and come back to this
Mm.
person. And that has happened. Can I tell you, so many times. I just go back in my email, I search dermatologist, hairstylist, trichologist. You go through, I'm like, oh, here are all these experts. I need 3 of them, and then I'm contacting the person. So
Hmm.
it's very much like that. And I think it's also important to know, if you don't get a response now, it might not necessarily be a no. It might just be, let me put this to the side because I'm doing like 10 other projects right now. Or let me put this, ooh, this sounds interesting, but I do not have a place for it. And this is along something, the lines of something I wanted to pitch, but it's not approved yet. I don't have it all fully fleshed out, but let me just save that so I can come back to it later. So no
Yeah.
response is not necessarily no. It's just no response. And that could mean a lot of things.
I love how encouraging it is because you're basically saying throw your name in the hat. You never know when it's going to be called, right? And you also said it's important to establish your expertise. But let's say someone doesn't have a medical degree or they're not a dermatologist. What's another way they can establish authority, credibility, expertise?
Well, it depends on what it is, right? And I'm going to speak to something right now that I think I may a lot of what I hear a lot of people who I know who like start beauty brands or who want to start beauty brands. I know a lot start in the home, a lot start in the kitchen. And one thing I think is very important important, especially if you don't have any backing, is to have that story and to have an aesthetic. Those two things, I think, if you are just independent working alone, will take you very far. Because one thing is that editors like things that look pretty, because we might have to photograph them, either for a story or for our own social media. Like, there are some products that I have just because they look nice. And if I want to do like shoot some like little silly social thing, it's there. So if it looks, make sure it looks nice, and also have a cool, I think a cool story always gets me. And I think a lot of brand owners need to like really be honest with yourself, because at the end of the day, there are a lot of beauty products, there are a lot of brands, and they're all making the same stuff. Somebody telling me, oh, I just came up with this new, I don't know, this new body oil. And this body oil is something that I got inspired to make because, during the pandemic, I was in my house and I had all these olives lying around, and I just took the oil from the olives and mixed it with, some lavender essence. And now I have this wonderful revolutionary product that all my friends love. Baby, there are about 1,000 body oils. What, like, come on. A lot of this stuff is not unique. So you got to make it unique. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just need to put some rims on it. So
I love that. So if it's not unique, maybe it's something about, like yesterday, I just interviewed someone from the starter pack, Kiba Lloyd, and the reason why she got featured by herself pitching is she put in the headline, real estate broker turned wellness, skincare founder. So would that be something interesting, like a kind of a pivot?
if I'm working on something related, yeah.
Yeah.
But definitely a story is I think very, story and packaging are very important. I'm not gonna lie to you. There are brands that like I have, and they're like very young brand. Like, these aren't people that are like established, brands. These are young brands, and I've gotten their products and tried them and been like, maybe this isn't for me, but damn, that packaging is gorgeous. I got to put this in something because this is like so aesthetically pleasing. And maybe if it's not for me, somebody else will like it. Plus the packaging, people buy stuff for packaging all the time. So even if you have a mediocre product, baby, if you just got put in some old olive oil and lavender oil that you could get at the corner store, but that thing is in a pretty bottle and you kind of dress it up and you got a cute little story, that could attract somebody. I actually had a brand that, I was once, I liked their packaging, and once I heard their story, the like behind it, literally, like I was moved to tears because it was such it was, and the story hit home to me because it was like very much myself and the founder had gone through a lot of like this. It's very moving and very special, and that will get you places, like good packaging and a good story, because at the end of the day, what are we doing but telling stories?
Yeah, that's for sure. And I think it's really about tapping into your why. But I do think that some founders make the mistake of the whole pitch being about their story and then it's too long. So can you just deconstruct it for us on what is the right balance between a good story but not going into an autobiography?
So what I like to do is just tell me the main points. I don't need to know about like unless your grandmother, childhood, whatever actually relates to the product, I don't need to hear it. And even if it does, like, keep it short, keep, keep it succinct. Give me the elevator pitch, give me the headline, give me the stuff, the most important stuff that is going to be interesting, so that I can be like, okay, maybe I can do something with this, because you never know. And sometimes the answer is no, sometimes the answer is we'll see, and sometimes the answer is let's do something together.
Yeah, so keep it short. That's good. So, what's another mental exercise before they press send to just keep trimming it a little bit more? Like, for example, I like bullet points. I think it's easier to read. And I actually tell people not to send their media kit. I feel that it's a little presumptuous. I think instead to put the price, where it's found, and then a link. Right. So, is there another like tips and tricks on like just giving enough story, but not being too about yourself?
you don't want it to, because at the end of the day, we want to talk about the product, right? Unless it's a brand founder story, and that's not what you're pitching initially. Because if I don't know your product and no one knows your product, what's so unless it's not a, just saying, it's not a brand story, but it's just like a dating profile, right? What are the things about you that's going to get somebody to be like, I'm just going to swipe, what is it? Which way is it? Swipe right? Right? Swipe
Right.
right. Yeah, right is the, I'm choosing you. Swipe right on. Like, think of it like that. Like, what are you putting in your dating profile that like you want to show your best, but you also want to keep it brief because ain't nobody going to read all that. So I'd say
Mhm.
think of it as writing it something like that.
Yeah, I love that. Maybe like what about if they've won an award for it or if it's used by a celebrity or something, would that help?
That's great. And if it's a celebrity that you notice, oh, we're using a lot, we're talking a lot about Bella Hadid, and Bella Hadid was just lighting your candle. That's something that you can pitch. And maybe I have
Yeah.
a candle story coming up. So, and
That
then there it is. There's the inclusion. I'm like, oh, I was looking for candles. This is one Bella Hadid likes. I already know the blurb. And I can say in the story, Bella Hadid likes this candle. And we're done.
So what if they don't know Bella Hadid, right? Let's say they're just completely just starting out. What about using like a survey or like data points, like proprietary data? Does that help?
Not for me. I'm not necessarily I mean, if it helps you figure out like who to market to and who to hit up and who your customer is and all of that, that's cool. For me, it's not really a factor.
For beauty, right? So what about survey? Like if you surveyed users and there's like a testimonials, like would that help give some credibility?
Perhaps, but I still got to use it. And you can't even go off testimonials. We've had actually in the beauty industry a few scandals of, brands having, people write from the brands write their testimonials. And it doesn't mean the products weren't bad because it's I think it's happened with a couple of, and it was all brands that I like and are still super popular. So you can never really tell. You don't know necessarily with reviews. I think I have to use the product, and even if the reviews are great, if I use it and I don't like it, I'm not going to feature it because it didn't work for me. Maybe somebody else will. Might work for someone else
Yeah.
on staff, which is one thing I like to do. If there's something that really doesn't work for me, but I can, because I also have to think of the reader, right? So if I have something that I'm like, this it's a no from me, but it's going to be a yes for a lot of y'all. I will still feature it, or I'll give it to somebody else or have them try it. And if they like it, then they can speak to it, why they like it, which I might be able to understand why they like it, but I'm not experiencing the like part. So let someone who likes it write about it.
Yeah, I like that, especially for what you do, it's so much about trying and testing it, and that's where you get your credibility from. So my next question is, how do people even write in the email about like sending you samples in a way that is not a turnoff and not too pushy?
I think maybe one or two emails is fine. You could say, I would love to send samples for your consideration. Um, you don't have to send 5 follow-up emails because I saw your first one, most likely. I might not have responded. It might, because sometimes, a lot of times, follow-up emails, like I do need them because I don't have time to address certain things. And maybe I'm just scrolling so fast that I miss some stuff. But no more than 3 times, baby. And
Yeah.
like, because then it's just too much. And I will tell you, people have gotten themselves blocked for being too persistent, and it by a lot of editors across several magazines. There are folks that are blocked. So you don't want to be too extra. You do want to reach out. Also on social media, reaching out to, because I'll get a lot of pitches in my DMs, and most of them I ignore because I say email. I put my email in my, just read the social media. A lot of editors will say, I prefer email, or I take DMs,
Mhm.
or email me. Don't email me here, email me there, and I'll see what it is. So yeah, there's also that, and sometimes stuff like there's multiple editors at magazines, and there are stuff that I hadn't tried and had been pitched so many times that I literally did not have time to do them. And then another editor that had time to tried it and liked it. And then there they are, in it. And since the other editor tried it and liked it, I'm like, hey, girl, like, I got this too. Should I use it? It's been sitting here because I haven't had time to use it. And they're like, yeah, girl, like, get it.
That's awesome. So what if someone has a very expensive product and they can't ship out a full sample? What would you do instead to
I
give
love
someone the
minis.
experience? Huh?
Minis. Minis, travel size. I love minis. There's some things I like full sizes of, but I don't have the space. I have to say sample sizes, mini sizes, travel sizes have been like, I've just become so in love with them because they don't take up as much space. I can still try the product. And if I like it, I can bring it with me when I travel. So that's also been fun. But I think it depends on also the travel size, or like what size you're sending also depends on what it is. So like, sometimes that travel size conditioner, you might need to send two because somebody has thick and curly hair, and might need more conditioner. So it depends,
Mhm.
but mini travel sizes are great. I take lab samples of stuff. I actually, I've tested, I've written so many stories that, you see the packaging on the launch. That's not how it looked when I got it because I got the lab sample. And I'm happy with that. It's the same thing. So definitely look into, I guess, when you're producing, like making stuff in slightly smaller sizes.
Yeah, I love that. Such good tips. I want to shift to gift guides and product roundups, right? So like something that's related. As you said, there are people who are so eager pitching you Christmas gift guides in July, you said. So what is the right cadence? What is the right time frame? Let's say I want to pitch something for Mother's Day.
Well, Mother's Day is coming up, so right now would
Yeah.
be a good time for Mother's Day pitches. If you're doing seasonal stuff, commerce is gonna be faster. Um, and also it depends on what part of leg of the publication the editor you're contacting is working on. So I'm on digital, so you're gonna email me Mother's Day stuff now, maybe at the end of February, right?
Hmm.
If I'm on print, you emailed me about Mother's Day stuff a couple months ago because of the cadence of print. That's why, print editors are getting gift guide suggestions in July and August because that's what they're working on. Me, July and August, I'm working on summer stuff and beginning of fall stuff, if that, depending on what part of August it's in. If it's early August, probably not. But late August, late August, I'm working on, fall stuff. So definitely, it's a lot. You have to do a lot of your own research, and it sucks. But that's the job, right? I have to do my research when I'm writing a story. So, it's part of,
Yeah.
I think, being a business owner.
Yeah, and it's such a worthy exercise. I mean, to be able to be, for example, tested by you, who is an editor at Allure, so much better than buying an ad and the customer seeing like advertising. So that's why, I mean, if it was easy, anyone would do it. My next question is: people get so hung up about, oh, I'm pitching to more than one person at an outlet. What do you have to say to that? Because they, like, how do they know what's crossing the line and what's just sending another pitch?
Well, we're all getting a lot of emails at the outlet. So I don't think it's bad to pitch more than one person at an outlet. I think it makes sense because like people are working on different things, and you might email me for something that you would like published sooner, and I'm just like, well, baby, I'm not working on that. And but maybe my colleague is. So people are working on different things, so it is, I think, worth it to send to a couple different editors, but of course, like, understand, and I that there are a lot. It's impossible for us to reply to every email. And actually,
Yeah.
if I do reply, and I actually tried that last summer, I did this thing where I was like, I got all these PRs. There's some stuff I didn't respond to because I was like, whatever. But I was like, I'm going to do this thing where I respond to the email and I say, hey, I acknowledge that I've seen your email. If it's a fit, it's a fit. If it's not, it's not. And then that, isn't particularly helpful either, because then it becomes, while I have you, here are 10 other things that I want to pitch you. And I'm like, bro, I just was responding to the one thing, and now I have to think of other, like, address all this other stuff. So, like, really think about that. And also know that your thing isn't the only thing we're working on. Like, we barely have time. Sometimes I barely have time to do the stuff that I have to do in a day. So if you're not getting a response, it's like, well, I've been working. I got up at, 6 a.m. I started basically working and doing, like, looking around for stuff to write about at 7 a.m. It's 6 p.m. now. Like, I want to watch Drag Race and drink a glass of wine. I don't want to,
So don't take it personally. So it kind of lifts the pressure off, because I feel like founders are so afraid to just press the send button. And I always say everything you want is on the other side of the send button.
Absolutely. And yeah, don't be afraid to send to a couple editors. Like, that's fine. Just make sure that when you're following up, you're not like bombarding people, because then they'll just ignore it. So
Hmm.
be wise. Like,
Yeah.
just had, like, there is a degree, like I said, of social intelligence that you have to consider. And not everyone has that naturally. And even the people who have that naturally, might slip up, and it could be a faux pas. So it can be kind of delicate, but I don't think it's impossible. Like, again, I've used products from people that I've really liked. And, like, if I like something and I have a place for it, I'm going to feature it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it has nothing to do with if you know that person, right? It's your personal preference.
It's my personal preference.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why everyone listening should just go and put your name in the hat. You deserve it. And it's such a good exercise as a founder to do that too. My next question is, a lot of founders are like, well, what if I have 10 products? How do I know which one to write in the pitch email?
Um, Depends on what you're pitching, right? Are you pitching your newest product? Is the pitch email something about is the pitch email something timely that is an old that can fit with an old product that you have, right? So you have some, like, little ice face globes that you've had for a little while, and there's some viral TikTok thing going on with ice face globes. It's an old product, but TikTok literally, and that's one thing. If something's going on TikTok, we're all writing about it, because that's a lot of traffic. So watch what I think that's also a good idea. Watch what's going on TikTok. But if it's something like that, then we're gonna write about it. Like, pay attention to the things that are going on around you. And it's
Yeah.
like I said, it's extra work, but that's the work that we're doing daily. And if you kind of understand how our minds work, and how we're choosing stuff, then that's an advantage for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I mean, this is the work that's really going to be resulting in 80% of the success of their business, right? It's like the 20% that's going to be 80%. I love that. So you've given us so much to think about, all the do's and don'ts. You really lifted the veil, if you will, as opposed to, to some people who shroud it in secrecy. It's not rocket science, but you said you need to have a good packaging and a good story, but don't go overboard, because it's not all about you, right? Is there anything that we haven't touched upon in terms of pitching do's and don'ts, or maybe the timing or follow-ups, or just kind of best practices?
I don't think so. One thing is, if someone says don't DM them, don't DM them. If
Mm.
because they're not going to answer the DM. So unless it's someone like, personally, like, if you're, I don't know, if you're my friend and you started a brand and you want to DM me about it, you can DM me. But we're people too, and, like, people have a lot of different stressors, and we're living in New York City, we're living in a pandemic, we may be in a nuclear war in, like, the next month. There's a lot going on. You can't, like, again, you can't take things too personally. And you can't, like, our minds are all over the place, you know? So I think it's just really about being smart and very strategic when you're pitching.
Yeah, and relevancy. And check TikTok.
And check TikTok. I'm telling you, like, that plays, I mean, a couple years ago it was Instagram, but now everything is TikTok. Like, if it's a like, and I'm sure, like, if you read our magazines, or like, well, not even really magazines, like websites that are based from magazines, or like any of these kind of lady mags on the web, half of the stories are about stuff that was on TikTok. And there's a reason, because that stuff clicks, right? So
Yeah.
if you're noticing that a publication is doing a lot of stories based on content that they found in other places, maybe it's worth it to get on that platform, you know? And also, if you're a founder and you have a really cool personality and you're social media savvy or whatever, like, that can also be something that's interesting, you know, as long as there's something interesting about the product, interesting about you, and that melds with, you know, timing and all of that. Like, I don't think you necessarily need to be with an agency um, to get into a publication. Eventually you might, because, you know, if you're getting into publications and then you keep getting into them, you can't handle all that stuff yourself. Like, and why would you want to? You're gonna want somebody else, or maybe
Mhm.
you do that in house. But in the beginning, you know, you gotta just think strategically.
What has been the most like inspiring thing that you've helped founders accomplish by writing about them? Like, has it just like blown up someone's business or created opportunities that really was game changing for them?
Well, I will say a couple of founders that I've spoken to have been like, I'm not going to lie, like, you writing about us has really helped our business. Um, and I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I'm glad. I don't know why I'm taken aback by that every time. I don't know. But like, that's pretty cool to hear. And especially if it's a young brand and I love the story and like the products are good and I love the founder, like, I'm the kind of person, like, I will ride for a brand, right? There's one particular hair care brand that was pitched to me, and I was reading about it and I was like, this sounds so cool. I was like, yes, this is so different, because the philosophy and the ethos behind the brand was so different than what a lot of people in the category were doing. It literally was just like, it very much was the opposite of what people like, the mainstream. And in a way that when I looked at it, I said, this is relevant and this is something that's needed. So I was like, this is great. I mean, it's more hair care products. It's not like you can't get them, but they were such good quality, and the reason what they were created for, I was like, you know what? This makes sense, and there's a story right there. And then I, you know, spoke to the founder, and she was like so cool and smart. The packaging is right. The packaging is great. The branding is great. And I talk about that brand all the time. All the time. And I didn't know this girl from Adam when I first heard of her brand. But now that I know it, like, everywhere people always ask me, oh, what's the hair care brand you like? I'm like, baby, it's Bread Beauty. Because I loved all from top to bottom, like, they had it together. And it's still one of my favorite, like, hair brands. I'm going to feature them. You know, if they do something, I want the product, because I know, like I got like I it hit me when I got, you know, when I got that pitch. And when you think about it, beauty and also fashion, that's something that's also very emotional, you know. If you can connect to an editor on that level, you're going to be more open. You know, I've,
Mhm.
you know, gotten to know founders, you know, they might have had a you know, price, like, it's like, okay, another skincare brand. But then I talk to the founder, I talk about the story and the ethos behind the brand, what they're doing behind the scenes, because it's more than just like making products. You know, you're talking like, well, we're trying to, you know, create economic opportunity for people in this region, and this and that is what we're doing. I'm like, yo, that's so cool. And these products are dope. This is something worth featuring, because besides it being a good product, there's also behind it something so powerful and something that I want to put out, put out into the world and share with everyone.
I love that. So if you have a charitable or give back component, definitely mention that, right?
For sure. And obviously it depends on the give back component, because there's, sometimes these charitable, situations are charitable only to the people that don't need the
Hmm.
charity. But, if there's that aspect, like
Yeah.
my brand employs women from, this region of the world who have been making this hair oil for 4,000 years. And
Hmm.
now, we've created, this product, and they're the ones still making it, and we've empowered them economically, and here's what it is. And even if the story isn't necessarily about the product, maybe then an editor is like, well, I want to go meet these women. I want to go do this.
Yeah.
Like, what can I do with this? So it's a lot of different things that you can latch onto for a story.
Yeah, and I love that it's not pay to play. Like you're not taking a commission. They're not paying you. Journalism is not dead. The integrity is still very much there.
No, I don't. Look, if you're gonna pay me, it's gonna be an ad, and it's going to be noted, because I
Yeah.
don't I
I
don't do
love
that
that.
that kind of, no. And
Yeah.
like like if you're gonna pay to play, then it's an advertisement, and then that
Yeah.
needs to be distinctly said, because I don't think it's right to kind of have that kind of subliminal shape. No. And I'm
Yeah.
very much about, we live in a capitalist society. We're doing what we can. And I very much like empowering smaller business owners, people that are just trying to make it, man. Because it is hard
Yeah.
out here. It is like,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous and it's unfair, really, to all of us
Hmm.
that we have to work this hard, to survive. So I always have very much in my heart, for people that are trying to come up and build their businesses. I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm with you. And if I'm connecting to you, let me see what I could do. I might be able to do something, I might not, but I'm gonna try.
Thank you so much for empowering and elevating these voices because that's exactly what I do as well. And that's why I actually found you because I felt like we're so aligned. So while I have you here and I'm putting you on the spot, but as you know, my community is 90% women of color founders and a lot of them are like, "Oh, I want to pitch. I want to pitch to her right now." What are some of the things that you're looking to cover? Maybe there's a fit and hopefully they have taken what really good notes on the things you said to do and don't. But can you give us like maybe something that you're excited to write about recently?
There's a lot of, well, I've been doing a lot of, I think, like philosophical reflecting, and like like thinking about beauty on a larger scale. I've been very interested in, I think, especially women of color, as a Black woman in particular, and a Black person that's whose family's been on this side of the world, like, for hundreds of years. One thing that I like to look for is those brands that tap into tradition, like Black traditions, especially African traditions, in an authentic way. I'm not talking about, you're just some random lady on, like, Instagram, who is selling, candles and calling herself a brujera. There has to be some kind of substance. Like, come on. But I love those kinds of things because, and I think for me, that kind of stuff connects to me on an emotional level, because I'm just like, so many of our traditions have, we've had to fight to be able to maintain them. And when I
Yeah.
see people going back to those and drawing from those and creating from those, that really inspires me. And then sometimes there's another story behind that, and there's
Yeah.
like a deeper thing that's just like so interesting that I might want to cover. So I think about those things a lot. But yeah, definitely those kinds of tradition stuff. And even, granted, I'm Black, so obviously I'm gonna be drawn to like Afro traditions. But like a lot of like traditional, like especially South Asian kind of stuff, like that stuff is so cool to me to like learn about, these beauty traditions that have been passed down that I might not have heard of, but now here you are creating, creating something. There's this one brand that actually everyone at Allure is like freaking out, like they love Kulfi. And they've got some kind of like kajal liners, and it started by a South Asian woman, and she started with these kajal liners that are just like so buttery and go on so well, and everyone uses, like everyone on staff is like, we love it, we love it, we love it. And I've tried the stuff. I like the eyeliners. I have some actually right over there. But I also love the story. I'm just like, yes, like of course you're gonna make a modern kajal. This is something that kajal liners worn for thousands of years, and they were telling the story in a unique way. The branding again was on point, and the quality of the product was on point. So there's all
Yeah,
those things. Invest
I
in
love
a
that.
good graphic designer and someone who knows aesthetics.
You mentioned about South Asian and Ayurveda, and we actually have 3 or 4 PR Starter Pack members who actually do Ayurvedic wellness things. So I'm going to connect with you after that, after our conversation. How can people get into your world? I know you said like no DMs, but how can they follow what you're writing and support you?
Well, I'm on social media and I have my work. Like if you're talking about something work related, I have my work email, and I look through all my emails, as I'm sure many of you heard. I'm looking through them. I might not respond to everyone, but I trust me, I saw it. So that, like, if it's a lore business, then email me. If you just want to say hi because you like my dress, I love DMs that are compliments about how pretty and stylish I am.
Yes, queen. I want to send you one right now. Thank you so much for your time. You have given us not only actionable tips, but your energy is so infectious. So thank you so much for being on here.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. Like, I really, like, we got to keep our money like in our communities, and I really think that with the economic climate that we have now, it's so unfair to regular people. And this, especially in the United States, like we talk about, oh, small business is the backbone of our country, but we do nothing for small businesses. In fact, we punish small businesses for existing and reward big businesses for swallowing everyone up. So I really I'm so glad to be on here and to like hopefully be helpful to somebody, because we got to get, I want to see more people thrive, especially women, and especially women of color.
Yes. Now, on that note, it's been such a pleasure, and I cannot wait to follow your journey and see who makes the cut.
Of course. Thank you so much. This was so awesome.